And we are on Jazz Street with Mr. Tony Levin. Tony, welcome back to Rochester again.
Thank you. Great to be here.
And tonight you're performing with King Crimson.
Yes, a famous jazz band. No, just kidding. A progressive rock band. And thrilled to be back in Rochester because I have a big history here. Wonderful times I've had here musically, and thrilled to be on tour with King Crimson.
We were speaking with Tony Levin. So, Tony, being with King Crimson and working with Robert Fripp, can you explain how did you end up with the band, and what's it like to be a part of that organization?
Well, it's very challenging, very satisfying musically for me. Actually, I joined the band in 1981, quite a while ago, so I'm used to it by now. But King Crimson is truly a progressive band in that we don't just stay the same and keep doing the same thing. So the lineup has changed through the years, and the musical direction. We always feel Robert leads us in the imperative to not just do what you did before, but to keep moving. And I really think that people who come to our shows are constantly surprised by it's not what they expected, and maybe it's not what any other band is doing, which is pretty special when you think about it.
We're speaking to Tony Levin here on Jazz 90.1. Tony, give us a sense of what it was like when you were going to school here at Eastman.
Oh, it was great. It was some years ago, and I was really lucky. I played in the Rochester Phil in the RPO, and I played under Stravinsky right here at the Eastman Theater. That's some of the special things that have to happen to me right here in this theater. I got to play in the Chuck Mangioni's first Friends in Love concert, and then the reunion 40 years later. So I've had probably more magical musical experiences in this theater than any of the many theaters I've played in my life. And I was really lucky in school. Of course, I got a good education in classical, but also I happened to be here at a time that Rochester was just the most happening jazz place. I was in school with Steve Gadd, and Gap Mangioni very luckily had me in his band, and Chuck Mangioni. I played with Chuck, and there were Sal Nistico and Joe Romano and Jerry Nywood, a fantastic jazz scene here. So I hope some of it rubbed off on me when I went to New York after that, and I just feel I was very lucky to be in school at the same time as those great players in that great jazz scene.
We're speaking to Tony Levin on Jazz 90.1. That being said, Tony, for up-and-coming musicians who are learning their craft in a conservatory, what advice would you give them? Because you've done so many different broad things, whether working in the jazz idiom or with John Lennon or Peter Gabriel or now with King Crimson. What advice would you give young students?
I don't have any brilliant advice. You'd think I would, but you'd think I'd have learned something all these years. But indeed, this is common in the music business. I'm trying to still learn what the best maneuver is to have good work with good players. I think, though, that we are all very lucky, those of us who love to play, if we can get to play for a living or even without making a living at it, to do it for a significant part of our lives, that we're lucky. In a way, we beat the lottery right there because we're doing something very special that means a lot to us inside. So I would say, don't lose your appreciation of that, of how lucky you are to be somebody who both loves music and can play it.
Tony, thank you so very much.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.